Hey everybody, how you guys doing tonight? I'm here and I've been kind of thinking like over the last couple of days, just a lot. A couple of things are really like bother me about the Idaho Four case, and I really want to be here to kind of see some things through. The conversation tonight is going to be about the actual killer or killers, and how I feel that the killer or killers were very comfortable in the house. I want to tell you what I think about that and why. But before I do that, I just want to again remind you this is going to be a short series. Um, the reason I'm bringing this short series is because I'm going over some of the discussions that we've had over the last year. And it's a lot of things that kind of keep me up. And um, when I have certain thoughts, I kind of want to go over them. I want to talk about them. I want to express them. And lately I've been kind of, brainstorming, thinking about the Idaho Four, thinking about, my past experience and how I am trying to intermarry, interrelate, bring it all together for you. Um, it's very hard because the mainstream media, they have really moved forward and kind of pushed a certain agenda about the Idaho Four and the deaths and the overall idea that BK Brian Kohlberger is the assailant or one of the assailants. And I'm saying that in kind of a quotation mark because they haven't really expressed that they think it's more than one person involved. But there have been many indicators in the beginning. For example, they said that when they were looking for the white car, that there were occupants in the car, right? So that always kind of indicated that there could have been more than one um, attacker, killer or killers, right? Um, so it's just a lot of things that I think about, and it's a little frustrating because sometimes, you want to bring forth information, but it's like going against the grain because um, people that have, um, people that are involved and have experience in actual policing crime scene. I mean, I say this all the time, but I really feel like there is a line, like a boundary there, that people are reporting their detailing and describing, and they have all these talking points about crime, but they haven't experienced crime. They haven't been a victim. They don't have any family that this has happened to, or they never worked in any kind of police department. They never processed a crime scene. They don't have a certain level of investigative, um, criminal, forensic um, experience, but they're heading these um, shows, and they're reporting this as if it is solid gold. But people that have this knowledge, this experience, this past work history, they've gone to college, they have applied themselves, they disagree. It's so many things that I feel that it's just you know trying to get a certain idea across, a point across. You know, I can relate more to logically thinking people that are thinking certain things through. And I feel like I can relate to them because when they're just considering, they're contemplating, they're brainstorming, they're imagining the things that they're saying, they know a lot of this case does not add up. It's very difficult because you see this mainstream push with a certain agenda in the case. And in real life, when you're sitting back and you're watching and knowing this evidence, this information, you're viewing it differently, right? You're viewing it in a way that's not anti, but it's not, you're not aligned, you're not in agreement with the mainstream media. And it's hard because you could be watching a video or update, for example, and they'll say something like, this is an unverified video. We couldn't verify the source of it. We can't confirm the data. But well, then why are you putting this on your platform? You're discussing it. And even if you don't think you're promoting it, you're passing bad information. And now it's been disseminated, in the atmosphere, in the YouTube world, in the media, and the news, as if it has value. When if you can't confirm it, you can't confirm the data, you can't even authenticate if it's a real source. You've put that out. So you're placing certain things in potential jurors' minds. They could be sitting on a trial and know all this leakage, all this information that's been leaked, and it may not even present itself. No judge is going to allow that. But on the other hand, you're pushing these different platforms with all of this information that has not been confirmed. And it's really disturbing. Um, it really makes it hard for people like me that are talking about the real evidence, the known evidence. And um, it's a challenge. It's a challenge every day. And you sit back and you try to figure it out. You try to focus on the case and the facts. And you really want to, educate the public, make them aware, a lot of people get out of law enforcement, they get out of policing, they retire um, because they don't want to see this evil. They don't want to go to these scenes. They don't want to see people unalive, hurt, brutality, just brutalized, viciously attacked. Some of the worst scenes, children abused, hurt, assaulted. You see some of the worst cases. You come onto scenes, where you don't have any idea what you're facing. And whether you come from a farming town, a big town, a small town, a big city, the country, wherever you come from, the brutality of it all does not change. It changes you. It changes how you think, how you appear, how you show up in the world. And this is why I try to tell you that you just have no idea of the depravity, um, of the sadness, of the darkness, of the evil that happened on November 13th. Um, I wasn't there, but I can use my imagination. And what really is disturbing is the fact that you have a machine working, and that machine is pushing forward, um, minimizing what happened to these four victims: Zaina, Maddie, Kaylee, and Ethan. What happened to them is really It's unimaginable. I feel that we are not doing them justice when we sit up here and we don't tell the truth. We don't acknowledge things that have happened, so many different mistakes, things that you cannot overlook. And it's not leading us closer to the killer or killers. I feel that the involvement of the university has is really um, it's really derailed parts of the investigation and the case because I believe the university has been working with the police department. There's no separation. To me, the university's goal is to focus on student enrollment. They want kids to return, and they also want to usher in a new school year of kids, new kids. And then the police, their goal is more so public safety, managing how people feel, how they move. They don't want people to leave the community. This is a small community. And in tandem, working on the same goals, it has really derailed this case. When the university could have also heard the victims' families' concerns and prioritize the need for justice for those four victims and their families, they didn't do that. I feel I feel that they have worked closely with law enforcement with the idea that they're going to move forward, and this will be how they will protect the community in tandem with the police. However, I don't feel that that's a reasonable method to get to that goal. They could have remembered not just the students that are at the university and incoming students, they also have to remember those students. Those were students at the university. They lost their lives and they were important. They were a part of that community. They were students and their lives matter too. And not just from the perspective of acknowledging that their lives matter. You also have to protect and uphold that you're going to support this idea of bringing justice forth, which will help create not only healing, but those feelings of safety. I think that we're missing that. I think there were a lot of mistakes, a lot of mistakes. But I think once law enforcement severs this tandem role with the university, the case will be better forward. The biggest, most glaring issue is that justice wasn't put first. And I think that's going to play a role at some point in the prosecution of not only Brian Kohlberger, but possibly all of these actors that made these decisions. The prosecutor, not objecting to the demolishing of 1122 King Road, the house. That's if the murder even happened there, right? Because when I saw that house demolished, I didn't see any blood. I seen walls intact. I seen flooring intact. I didn't see any DNA, anything that would show signs that this was a place where a quadruple homicide occurred. I don't know if they had a cleaning company coming in. I don't know if the murders actually happened at 1122 King Road. I don't know. But what I do know is from what I saw from the demolishing of that house, that there was no blood. I thought I would see, some cut out walls, cut out flooring. And see, this is the other thing. You don't typically have a police chief going into the property, removing furniture, removing items, and driving off in a U-Haul truck. It's unheard of. It's all in how things were handled. Um, it's hard to say um, what the crime scene was, how it was preserved, if it was preserved, because so many things were going on that you typically don't see. And I think that would be a major issue going forward in the case. And it's just part of why, um, I have all of these concerns. Before, I already told you we were going to have some mini videos to go over how eyewitness testimony is not reliable. I brushed up on that. That's coming. I talked about how we're going to go over a crime scene cleanup. What happens with that. I've already had a video on the stalking. Um, I already had the video on the K-bar night. Um, I'm planning a video to do a discussion about the 911 call and also a discussion about why the police um, kept so much to the vest uh, and haven't really given out too much. And I feel that, there has been a little bit misleading things in the beginning as well. I can remember with the Zodiac case, there was a point when they were getting drawings from the Zodiac killer. And I believe, I won't even say the company that released the Zodiac killer drawings, but they released it to the public. The police asked them not to. They released it to the public anyway. And I can remember some of the investigators really feeling defeated because they were trying to keep some of that evidence away from the media. So one, the killer doesn't know they're on to him, and then two, the public isn't aware of everything because you get all kind of people calling in tips and sending the police on wild goose chase, and they were really um, defeated after that because they had worked so hard and they wanted to protect the integrity of the case, the evidence, the information known to them. They didn't want it to be out in the public. So I see some of that, but I cannot deny that on the opposite side, there have been all kind of leaks. Where is this information coming from? Who would know this information? Who would know about how many times each victim was stabbed? Who would know that the victims were laying in the bed together? Who would know that to give that information to the public, to the news media, and much more, right? Much more, many things that I don't even discuss, because I want to have integrity here. So I don't discuss a lot of the leaks, okay? Um, so it's just a lot of things that is really, giving me a lot to think about. I've been doing some research and going back, going over the evidence. I recently went back and I watched a video with Kaylee where the officers came to the house for the noise complaint and how that officer took a picture of her driver's license. You know, that has always bothered me. That has always made me feel concerned. And I'm not going to deny that my thoughts led me to think that a police officer possibly could be the killer, or police officers could possibly be the killer or killers. And the reason why, I mean, I think I probably should do a separate video on all the reasons why I feel this quadruple homicide could have been done by a police officer or police officers. I might do a video just for that. But the reason that I feel that way, again, what is this video for? Because I feel that the killer or killers were comfortable at 1122 King Road. And you have to feel comfortable because you're in a position where you're not worried, you're not feeling fear, you're not concerned about being caught. You're not worried if someone comes out the room. Um, you're not in a rush. You're not concerned about someone calling 911, somebody exiting the home or running from the home or trying to seek help or going, to a neighbor's house. You're not worried. And you're also not worried if you're on camera. Because why wouldn't a police officer, why wouldn't a police vehicle be on camera? Who would question that? And if you're stationed in that area, if you're patrolling in that area, you have a reason to be there. So I think at the end of my mini series, I think I'm going to lead up to a video bringing everything together and why I feel that a police officer could be the killer killers. But for today, I'm going to focus primarily on why I feel the killer or killers were comfortable. Now, if we think about the property, I want you guys to visualize with me. Think about the property. Now, the house is not on campus, but it's close enough to campus where you can walk onto campus, okay, from the house. Now, we know the position of the house and how it's situated, right? There's dwellings all over, right? Surrounding the house, next to the house. So you have, in fact, an area that we're going to call highly populated, right? You have a lot of activity going on, a lot of movement. With a Saturday night, you may have some parties going on. You may have people actively out, and you're going to have a situation, where it's not going to be unusual for people to be walking around at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, right? They might be leaving the bar. They might be coming back to the dorms. They may be going from one dorm, well, not dorm, but housing, one housing unit to another housing unit. It might be hanging out with friends. It's a Saturday. All of that activity is going on. Ordering food, bringing in food, going to get some drinks. All of that activity, right, on a Saturday. Now, the reason I'm kind of trying to set a scene for you is because when we consider proximity from one house to another house, when we consider the time of death. Now, I just want to caveat this a little bit. I've been saying, maybe in one video, time of death after 2 a.m. The reason that I'm saying that is because we all know that everybody between the roommates that live there plus Ethan were all back at the property by 2 a.m. So we can infer with that the murders had to happen after 2 a.m. Now, with that being said, in this hour, you're still going to have activity, you're still going to have movement, you're still going to have people coming and going, okay? We know that, we understand that. That's not an issue at all. So, if we have someone coming into this area, now whether they live close by or they drove into this area, they may not be noticed, right? Nothing may spark any concern if someone's driving around or finding somewhere to park or walking around, things like that. This would not be unusual. Now, maybe in a regular residential neighborhood, if somebody's driving around, parking, their car is running, or they're walking around, they probably would be noticed. But I don't think so in this area. Now, if you can go back to this timing when the murders happened, the rear of the property, it was pretty dark. I don't know if a lot of people remember, but the rear of the property was pretty dark. So if somebody's kind of parking back there and walking around or going in between the houses, I don't know if they would even be seen or if it would be an issue because people are going to and fro throughout the night, going to and fro. If they're coming onto the area, if they're parking their car, if they're getting out, if they're coming outside for a delivery, or hey, we got to walk our dog, whatever. I don't think that would be unusual. Now, the reason that I'm setting all the scene up is because if you're coming to an area, now we can just accept that in the year 2022 is different, right? People have cameras at their home. There's cameras in stores you go to. There's traffic cameras. The university may have installed a whole camera system. So people are pretty much aware that there's going to be cameras where they go, whether it be in the store, in a building, in a downtown area, in a restaurant, or in neighborhoods. A lot of people have camera systems now, personal residential camera systems. So I think we have to just acknowledge that piece, because if you're planning this murder, and the reason I believe it was planned is because allegedly there was a sheath as the murder weapon. And you just don't carry something like that all the time around. Now, they never said that there was a break-in, like there was a broken window, a door was jimmy. That person or persons, they were able to get inside the property, whether it be through the ladder that was on the side of the house, whether it was through like a broken sliding door or an unlocked door or a code. They were able to walk in. Now, we also have to kind of acknowledge that, could somebody have let them in? I mean, there's 6 people in the house. Yes, absolutely. Especially if it's someone they knew. Or if the killer or killers already intended to do this, they may have been able to get into the property at a different time or during a party and just unlock windows, go to the bathroom, unlock it, go to the kitchen window, unlock it. People are diabolical and they think ahead and they plan, but we believe this was planned. So coming into that area under, darkness, or if they knew the person, or if it was law enforcement, they may have asked to come in. If it was law enforcement, if you knock, if you say, hey, there's a complaint, a noise complaint, I need to talk to you, can I come in? More than likely, you would let law enforcement inside the property. Um, if we go with the assailant that broke into the property, again, there are ways to do that. The sliding door, the window, using a ladder, various things like that we don't know. Um, and I don't think it was through the front door. And I think it was through the front door. They would have that on the ring camera. But all that's to say is none of what I'm describing, the traffic, a lot of people coming to and fro, um, the fact that the house was a three-story house. They're not concerned about how many people are going to be there. If they watch the house, they may know that it was a house full of women. Um, there were multiple cars parked in front of the house. I know Kaylee's car was there. I'm not sure who the other cars belong to, but if you're planning on this attack and it's going to be tonight, this night, you're seeing there's a three-story home. If you were watching it, multiple lights on. If you were watching it, you may have seen some of the roommates go into the house and Ethan. If you just paid attention, you're seeing multiple cars parked in front of the house, directly in front of the house, directly in front of the house. So, with all that being said and known and inferred, this killer or killers was unfazed. They were not um, going to change their mind, their intent. They did this thing. They did this thing. And this is some of the things, when put all together, make me feel that the killer or killers, they were very comfortable at 1122 King Road. They weren't afraid. They weren't concerned. They weren't worried about three stories. They weren't worried about seeing all those cars parked in front. They weren't. And maybe because it was a female house, maybe they felt they could handle female. And they definitely, with a weapon such as the K-bar knife. And if you haven't watched that video, it was just done a couple of days ago. Check it out. That weapon, you can't stop it. It's very, very hard to stop that weapon. It's going to give you the ability to inflict a massive amount of harm. You're really trying to hurt someone, cause them pain when you use a weapon such as the K-bar knife. It's really for unaliving, whether that be through hunting, or if you were in a fight, if you were in a war or military. That was a military grade, military design combat weapon. That's what it was used for. Can you imagine that? That people are trained in combat situations to use that knife for their survival in war, in combat, in conflict. And this was the type, this was possibly the type of weapon that was used on Maddie, Kaylee, Ethan, and Zayna. And this was breaks my heart. Breaks my heart because I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to put it together in a way to help law enforcement uncover who did this. Did that person walk around in their daily life hating women, despising women, angry with women, angry with the world, angry with their upbringing, antisocial, difficult to deal with? You know, they have personality issues. Or they, struggling to assimilate in just society, in groups? Were they able to work with others? What was the profile on the type of person that would do something like this? Where would that type of person work? Were they able to work? Were they able to get along? Were they able to go to a job day in and day out? What would be the characteristics of a person like this? Do they have difficulty forming relationships? Do they have difficulty communicating, expressing themselves? Did they show concern and care for others? You know, did they have any pets? Would they be capable of being nurturing to a pet, taking care of a pet, being responsible and accountable for a pet? We have to think about everything. If we're going to solve it, if we're going to figure out who did this, especially if it's more than one person. What is their mindset? What do they value? Because when I look at that house, I look at that house as representative of a time when people, they were kind, they had fun, there was laughter, like the sign said, good vibes, lights and everything out. Hey, come hang with us. Be our friend. Life is good. We're graduating, we're going to school. We're young, we're figuring it out. And this person, they come along into their lives, colliding their life into these four people's lives. Their life is full of misery and pain. There's no joy. There's no love. There's no happiness there. Only destruction, only anger, bitterness, misery. And they see these kids, they're out, they're all having fun. They're at the bar, they're talking to friends, they're laughing, they're enjoying their lives. They're just living their lives. They have people that care about them, people they care about. They're doing videos, jokes, laughing, games. They're with their friends. And this person collides into their lives. And when they enter the house, their darkness, their evil, their misery, their disgust, disdain. They bring that with them. And I just think about I think about why were they there? What were they there for? It didn't sound like they stole anything. Was the house ransacked? Was the drawers open? Was any property taken? Was their IDs intact? Was their cell phones there? Their cars weren't stolen? Why were they there? They say, they were trying to figure out in the beginning, was the house a target? Well, what would be in the house? If nothing was stolen, like physical property, was there possible money, drugs? Or was the girls a target? All of the victims that received multiple things. And what's odd is they said that Kaylee and Maddie, who were on the third floor, they were found in the same bed. And when I think about that more and more, it's a little odd to me because if Kaylee suffered over 50 stab wounds, allegedly, it is surprising to me that when they say she had defensive wounds also. How was she found in the bed? Was she physically placed in the bed? Did she never get out of the bed? Was she initially still fighting back and then placed in the bed? Or was she asleep in the bed? Allegedly, possibly. Because in the beginning, that was something that the coroner said. She said, I believe she said that all of the students appeared to be in their beds and sleeping. I wrote down the comment. I just don't understand. How was she laying in the bed? How was Kaylee still laying in the bed if she had the defensive wounds? Typically, if you're asleep, you don't have defensive wounds because you just don't have the time to respond when you have a knife attack. I wonder if the coroner actually saw the crime scene, but I guess it doesn't matter anyway because you have the detective and you have photos. And I also wonder if the rooms had coded numbers, like locks on the doors. What's the doors locked? Like, did the killer or killers know the code to the bedroom door locks? Or was it just a habit not to close the doors and lock them at night in the individual bedrooms? I wonder if law enforcement was able to determine the movements of Ethan and Zana by using their cell phones. Were their phones even recovered at the crime scene? Were Ethan and Zana phones recovered at the crime scene? Did they use triangulation to figure out their whereabouts? Or did they just base what the unharmed woman on the second floor said when she said that they were at the Child Mega party until 1 a.m., but they didn't arrive home until 1:45 a.m. So were they still at the Child Mega party and then returned home? I would like some type of confirmation for that. I would like to know more details about that for myself. To me, there was no urgent reason why the house needed to be demolished. I did a whole video about the house being demolished, and I did a video prior to that about why I felt the house should not be demolished because it had forensic value, potentially um, evidence that could be, found or come back to confirm, or spacing, sound, distance, just so many things. I thought that there was value in the property. I just didn't feel like there was a real compelling reason to demolish the house or to even remove the property. Um, there was no reason to return the property, no urgent reason why the property had to be removed. It just seemed like they could have gone the route of putting a tarp over the property or building a wall um, to cover up the house if it was an eyesore. I think that with the way everything has unfolded with details about the murder and us not being able to really have some understanding of why this happened to Ethan, Zana, Kaylee and Maddie, the time frame of the murders, and some of the explanation as to why the other two unharmed roommates um, did not call 911 and then later waited additional hours to call 911 and in fact called friends over is all going to have an effect. It makes people question, what really happened that night? Why was this killer so comfortable at 1122 King Road to come into the property? A 3-story home, multiple cars in the front, at least 6, possibly more. We don't know how many people was in that house. We have no idea. We don't know if there was another roommate. We don't know if there were other guests. We just don't know. But we know there was at least 6 people. And you have to think this person or persons came to this property bypassing people, cars, the police possibly only being less than 2 football fields away. And they not only went to the 3rd floor, they unalived those 2 people with the animal, with the pet. Then they went to the 2nd floor. They started at the 2nd floor, went to the 3rd floor, and unalived 2 more people. With at least 2 other people inside the house at the same time. If that's true, if that is true, why were they so comfortable? Why were they there? What was the intent? What was the focus? If everyone has settled down, everyone has gone to their individual rooms, if everyone has eaten, began to rest, why is someone entering this house? Were they let in? Was it a police officer knocking at the door? What happened? What was the catalyst for someone to enter into this house at this late hour? Or were they already there? Was there an argument? Was there conflict? They say allegedly they even had a fight earlier in the day. Was that something that followed them home? Were Kaylee and Maddie outside walking Murphy? They came in from being out. One of the first things you want to do is take your dog out. Did it start from there? Did someone follow them into the house? Did someone coerce them into the house, force them into the house, threaten them? Did they have an encounter with someone outside? And what time was that? I'm pondering, I'm thinking, I'm assessing information. I'm thinking of all kind of possibilities. That if someone was lurking around, if there was a stalker, maybe that was an opportunity. If they saw Kaylee and Maddie outside with Murphy, maybe the door was unlocked and they just snuck in. If you come outside and you're kind of walking the dog and going up and down the street, maybe that was an opportunity for them to sneak right into the house, especially with the rear of the house being so dark. my mind is always trying to think about things because for me, driving around, showing that driving activity, you also have to identify that vehicle in a way that's going to narrowly place that vehicle, not a similar vehicle, a similar model, a similar year, that person's vehicle. You got to get them out of that car. And then you have to place them in that house. I just want to make sure, because I personally have some thoughts about Ryan Koberger. I just don't express them so much because I don't want to lose the focus of unpacking all of this investigative information regarding the murders. Um, I can talk all day about who I think Mr. Koberger is, his background, his college degree, but I cannot get past the fact that he did not have any defensive wounds on his body, on his hands, his neck, his chest, his arms, his face. Just don't see it. He doesn't have a criminal past. He doesn't have a criminal record. He's not known for harming animals. He didn't seem to, be there long enough to really cross the path of these people because they're not in the same age group. They're in different states, but anything is possible. I just want to make sure that whatever details are out as far as the evidence, that they're accurate, that they have been accurately founded, and it brings me concern when the prosecutor is fighting, sharing the evidence, not willing or unwilling to share the evidence, particularly about that DNA. Um, motion after motion after motion. So I overall feel that with the information about the house, the proximity to others, the time after 2 a.m. of the murders, um, the fact that it was a three-story house, the fact that there were multiple cars in the front, um, the fact that 911 was not called, um, no one tried to seek help or leave the house. This makes me feel that the killer or killers were confident. They were not afraid. I feel that they were not concerned about being discovered. Um, and there were other people in the house that were not alive. And there's just really no reason why that didn't happen. It just doesn't make sense. And that's still very much so going to be a top question, a top inquiry for many people. That's not going to be a settled thing in their minds. And I think with the demolition of the house, it's going it's going to be a huge issue for the prosecution mainly. I think it could affect the defense if Mr. Koberger is convicted. Um, it may be grounds for an appeal on his behalf because his attorney did not object to that house being demolished. So there may be an ineffective counsel defense on his behalf. I don't even want to look that far down the road because I'm still assessing information. And, you know, um, they've had other um, law enforcement individuals be serial killers. So that is not likely. My concern is when the police is heavily interlocking with the university and the decisions are not being made for justice. I'm going to have a problem with that. Um, this is a small community and you really want to share resources and work together. But there has to be efforts made that put justice first and also consider the objections, the pleas of the victims of the Idaho Four murders, their families. You care about them, you care about their families, you care about the community, then you have to also uphold things like justice and making the right decision because there's going to be major discussion about the property and it's causing more questions since it's been demolished. Why was it demolished? What was the urgency? Why did you remove the items before trial? What were the compelling reasons to demolish the property over preserving the house? For the trial, for evidence purposes, for possible jury. You're going to have to demonstrate how the two unharmed women could not hear those students being brutally, and viciously attacked. And also how the killer or killers were navigating that house in darkness. How? It was not a normal lamp. Why would you even need to go to the third floor if you just came into the house? How would you even know which ones people were in? Were you checking for people or were you looking for something specific? Because how would you even know where people were, especially if the bedrooms had locks? Were some of the bedrooms locked and others weren't? Were the doors closed? You have to think about it all. This is, very late in the morning, late night into the early morning hours. Do people have their doors closed? Were their doors locked? How would you even know who's in each room unless you're looking through those windows that did not have window treatments, no blinds, no curtains up? How did this killer or killers navigate this house in the dark? Were they familiar with the property? Had they been in the property before? Did they go down to the first floor? Did they start on the third floor using the ladder? Did they start on the second floor? How did they enter and exit? Or did they never leave the house? Were they always at the house? Were they already there at the house? If this crime scene was very gruesome with extensive bodily fluid, blood, how could the roommates not smell death, not smell the blood? After the roommates were deceased, technically that would be at least 8 hours, about 8 hours. They didn't see Zana's body from the floor. They didn't smell death, the decomposition of the bodies, the blood. They didn't see any visible bloody footprints. A lot of questions. The main one being, why was the killer or killers so comfortable at 1122 Key Road? Why? What made them feel safe? What made them feel like, even if they were caught, somebody came upon the act of the struggle or fighting, that they wouldn't try to leave the house, to call the police, to run to a neighbor? You know, we need to know more details. We need to know the information that the unharmed roommates have. We need to see, you know, as much as we can about the physical evidence and whatever they have on video. And we need to know, is it likely, is it possible that if Brian Koberger is the suspect, the killer, how did he do it without a scratch, a cut, or abrasion on his face, neck, skin, hands? Particularly because two of the victims allegedly fought back against the attacker or attackers, we don't know. So that's what this video was for. Um, I just want to encourage you to keep watching this mini series. Um, I'm really trying to get to the point and build this up where I demonstrate in a way that I feel like this possibly could have been a police officer that did these murders. Just one take, right? I have no idea. But as I'm going through in my mind what I feel is the known evidence, and when I reflect on how that officer took that picture of Katie's ID, Obsession can start from anywhere. Obsession is something that you cannot control, that you don't ask for, and it could catapult into stalking. And I'm looking at who is likely, who had access, who had the ability, how they were comfortable at this property during this time in a 3-story home with 6 people, a minimum of 6 people at this property. Who would be more likely to have committed this crime? Would it be an unknown serial killer to select this house out of any house at this time with police present with, multiple cars parked in the front, 6 people in the house? I'm never going to forget the comment that the person walked past the unharmed woman on the 2nd floor, ironclad in black. That struck me, law enforcement. And then the comment, I'm here to help you. That struck me, law enforcement. I'm looking at the known alleged information. And the red flags for me are, I'm going to look at a police officer. I think we should also investigate that police officer. Why did you take a picture of Katie's identification? Why would you need that? To me, obsession can start very easily. Stalking in that position as a police officer, you can get away with so much. Sitting outside of a property, follow somebody, parking somewhere, working late hours. It's just, for me, aligning more than Mr. Barney Colbert. And I want to know, what kind of knife are police officers issuing? Or is there an evidence room where evidence is logged in with the police department? Is there a possible K-bar knife missing? Can we check police records to see if there's any evidence missing, like a K-bar knife that could have been taken from the evidence locker room? My mind is going everywhere. I'm looking at this very seriously. So that's where my thoughts are about why the person was so comfortable, why they were not afraid, they weren't concerned, they weren't rushing. They were able to unalive 4 of the 6 people in that house. And it's starting, for me, the red flags are adding up, and I'm going to continue to discuss them. And I'm feeling like this is not a road that I should go down, or, it doesn't have any value. To me, it's actually more likely than not. Okay, it's more likely than not to me to have a assailant that aligns more so with what I feel would be a potential suspect. So those are my thoughts on that. Remember, again, I'm coming back. The remaining videos that I want to discuss is eyewitness testimony is not reliable, the crime scenes cleanup, the 911 call, and why the police kept so much information close to the vest. So once I'm done with this little mini series, I may put something together that contains all my red flags on why I feel a potential assailant would be law enforcement, possible police officer. Okay, so thanks for checking out this video. Please remember, stay smart, stay safe, stay savvy. Be well, all my friends. Take care and good night. Bye, everybody.